Not yet joined?
Yeah, they're joining, sir. There was some network issue. That's why the call got disconnected. Now everybody is joining.
Problem at their end or our end?
No, it was at our end, sir. So now we have team 3NDC048.
Garima, you may give the important instructions.
We can start, I think.
Yes, and before starting, I request you to please make sure that all the arguments that you make are legally and constitutionally right. They should not be political, and no argument, no statement should be political.
Shall we start?
Otherwise,
Sorry,
it will
we
lead
cannot
to
hear you.
disqualification.
Sir, you can hear the participant because...
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, sir, can you hear me? I can hear you completely fine.
Yes, yes.
Hello?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
audible.
Namrata, can you please check too? Excuse me, here
Yes.
it is written that Judge 2 has left the room.
Yes, we'll just wait
No problem.
for him to join again.
Am I audible?
hope, yes, you're audible. I hope the rule that I just stated is clear. Otherwise, it will lead to disqualification of your team. Thank you so much. We'll just wait for the judge to join.
No problem at all.
So, sir has joined us.
Can we begin?
So, should the team start? Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so your time starts now.
Okay. In 1951, the minorities in Pakistan were 23%. Now they're 1.8%. In Afghanistan, there were estimated around 50,000 Hindus and Sikhs. Now only 1,006 present in the country. In Bangladesh, the scene is completely different, with a UN report of 200 pages talking about the atrocities against Hindus, including 49 million Hindus 49 million Hindus missing in Bangladesh and 11.3 million Hindus fleeing the country in fear of persecution and discrimination. A very good afternoon to esteemed judges and everyone present. My theme code is 048 and today I will be speaking on the motion CAA is completely constitutional and is not a threat to the secular nature of our country. In this argument, I will be talking majorly on 2 points rather than ranting passionately. The 2 points that I will be covering will be first, Article 14, and second, secularism. Article 14 talks about 2 points. First, equality before law, and second, equal protection of law. But this right is not absolute in nature. Some limitations are being offered by the law, and the courts in plethora of judgments have also stated what is limited and what is not under two doctrines, doctrine of reasonable classification and doctrine of arbitrariness. The argument against arbitrariness of CAA originates from the simple fact that the government received about 31,000 applications from illegal immigrants who are minorities in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and in Bangladesh. The government, in pursuance of this fact and in consideration of the persecution, decided to legally expedite their naturalization. Yes, they're not completely giving off the citizenship to every person who's coming, but they're just expediting the naturalization process. There is reasonability in classification, and the intelligible differentia is based on persecution that these communities have been facing in their countries. There is one common trait. They are minorities in theocratic countries with state religion, that is Islam in this case. More importantly, members of these communities are historically persecuted because of their religion identities and hence have migrated to India in large numbers. Thus, it is clear that these communities consider India to be their very sole, rational, and logically feasible place to seek shelter. Thus, all CAS does is to recognize the historical fact and correct a historical injustice. To back with this, a joint parliamentary report in 2016 had conducted a detailed factual survey to arrive at the present classification. It also points that these issues have been consistently raised in diplomatic correspondence. A lot of people further claims that why only these three countries? Why not more? But there is a historical and geopolitical reason behind it. Also, countries like Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Tibet have been collaborated with UNHCR, which India does not have a mandate on, but still respectfully agrees to. Another ground on which CAA is challenged is that it goes against India's secular values. And it is said that it accords special treatment to a limited set of communities. I would rather put it in a way that CAA is a restatement of India's secular value than its abdication. Moreover, the interreligious persecution or the sectarian persecution, as being called by many, seen in Pakistan, for example, the Ahmadiyas, cannot be equated to the persecution faced by the communities which are being persecuted because of their religion. If law was broader and would include all the religions to enter into India, to migrate into India, then we might as well do away with our borders. With before the conclusion, I would like to state a very important answer to a lot of questions that says that the Muslims are being targeted via this act. But it is very important to state here that CAA has absolutely nothing to do with it. CAA does not change any already existing citizenship act in India. So, if any person from any part of the country, if any person from any part of the world with whatsoever religion will come to India and will apply for citizenship, they will be given citizenship if they have the minimum legal requirements. In conclusion, I would like to say that CAA is a benign legislation which seeks to provide justice and relaxation to people who have been persecuted in their very own countries. There should be a difference between giving rights to people, giving human rights to people, and giving citizenship rights to people. And these two concepts should be dealt with separately. They are related, but again, they are wholly different concepts. That is it. Thank you very much, and I hope you're all in great health. Thank you.
A very good afternoon to one and all. I am 3NDC048. I'll be speaking against the motion. The true idea of the India has been crafted beautifully in the preamble of the Indian Constitution. The fabric of the Indian Constitution have been woven with the concepts of equality, liberty, secularism, and fraternity, which have been designated as the basic structure of the Constitution. Religion is a matter of faith and a private choice, which cannot be manifested into public policy. Any state decision against the constitutional scheme of India is unconstitutional and hence non-democratic. Here, I would take in this regard that I strongly oppose the enactment of the Citizenship Amendment Bill, as it dares to shake the very foundation of the Indian Constitution. The Parliament, I would not contest the competence of the Parliament to legislate on the matters of the citizenship, but would rather raise some important questions which deals with the constitutionality of the Act. Before addressing the fundamental issue with this Act, I would rather point out some essential ingredients of the Act which are itself contentious. For example, no justification have been provided as to why certain areas of the Northeast have been exempted from the purview of the Act. Also, no basis have been provided for determining an individual as illegal migrant, and no criteria have been defined for reducing the number of years for naturalization to 5 years. Also, the Act suffers from the bureaucratic despotism in proving the valid documents, which is especially more difficult for women, which makes it a gender issue. The provisions of the Act cannot be dealt in isolation without establishing its nexus with the NRC, which have been promised by the state, which have to be conducted nationwide. The said amendment prima facie eliminates Muslim communities from Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan to acquire citizenship who have come to India on or before 31st December 2014. The underlying objective is to validate the eligibility of the illegal migrants to obtain citizenship who have faced religious persecution in their home countries as a result of partition, which have in their countries who have a state religion. But on a plain reading of this act, I would be able to argue that it does not mention the other minority communities such as Rohingya, Shias, and Ahmadi, who are equally subjected to the religious and political persecution. Also, the defense of the partition for the migration have been
I'm
ruled
so
out.
sorry, the time is over. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I would request team 048 to please leave. Thank you. Now we will be moving forward with team 3NDC 045. I repeat, 3NDC 045. Please request to speak so that we can let you in. I repeat, please request 045. Please request to speak. I think 045 is not here right now. If they come, we will ask them to continue later. We are moving forward with 3NDC 025.
Where? It's all right. We start with
Okay,
045.
045 is here. They have joined the room. And
All right.
yeah,
Ma'am, am I audible and visible?
you're not visible, but you're audible.
Can you see me, ma'am?
Yeah, you're visible right now. Where I want your other teammate as well.
Ma'am, I think he's just figuring out the logistics.
Yeah, he's here right now.
Ma'am, also a small request from my side. My net has been the meet's been glitching a lot for me. So if I ever go out of, if my net ever gets unstable, please let me know in the middle of the meet.
Sure. I would
Thank you so
request the other team participant to please turn on their cameras. Also, before starting, I would like to mention one thing, that please make sure that all your arguments and statements are legal and constitutional.
Yes, ma'am.
It should not be political. Otherwise, it will lead to disqualification of the team.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Aravinda, is my partner here, ma'am?
Yes, he's here. Your time starts now.
Okay. So 045 and I'm speaking for CAA. 11 months, ladies and gentlemen, 11 months since a very controversial piece of legislation known as the CAA has been passed. And it's been very interesting to observe the plethora of opinions and voices thrown on it, both in mainstream media and this particular debate. Now, I would like to break it down in a very objective approach. All emotive suggestions aside, we'll analyze it purely as a legal proposition as it was meant to be analyzed. So our debate agenda for today revolves around Article 14. So I figure that'll be a good place to start. As stated before by many other debaters, it allows reasonable classification as long as it has two constituents. One, an intelligible differentia, and two, a rational next step towards the end you seek to achieve. I believe both conditions are fulfilled by the CAA. It deals with the discrimination of minorities in 3 neighboring countries. And these countries are countries which we have ethnic ties with. And in fact, the act can actually be considered as inclusionary, as it provides a window which was previously not available for a lot of minorities pre-CAA. Now, a common argument raised is that it's a precursor to NRC and Muslims fear for their citizenship. So I'd like to conduct a little thought experiment here. So imagine CAB does not stand, or CAA does not stand the legal, had not stand the legal test, and it was not a thing. And NRC alone was implemented, which I must mention is within constitutional provisions. Muslims would still face the same thing. They'd still be evicted if they were illegal citizens. They'd still be evicted if they did not have the requisite documents. They'd still be evicted if they did not qualify any of the given conditions. This bill, if anything, alleviates the scale of displacement by reducing the number of people who would have to leave. It's not creating a ban, but it is merely relaxing a citizenship law. And there are even precedents for it. Mrs. Indira Gandhi gave citizenship to the Tamilans. And moreover, during the partition time, Ahmadiyas had very clearly stated that they wish to be part of an Islamic state. We need to accept the fact that certain gaps cannot be bridged. And an often repeated point, which I heard from a lot of debaters in this particular debate, is that why not Tamils from Sri Lanka? Why are we not giving them protection? Why are Muslims from Rohingya? I would like to address here that only another factor is that only religious persecution is concerned, not social or political. I'd like to address here that to redress some wrongs, you don't need to redress all wrongs. And the secular nature here is not violated because it's providing refuge to minorities. Under inclusion in a citizenship law does not violate Article 14. Now let's go on to Article 15, which states that no citizen shall be discriminated on the basis of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth, especially religion. And what's interesting here is to mention that no citizen, and you qualify as citizen when you pass a citizenship test. And this is only for citizens. But Article 21, on the other hand, is given to every single person, and it's not exclusive for citizens. Here too, as I mentioned earlier, if CA was not a thing, NRC would have made them qualify as non-citizens. Article 25, freedom to religion. I don't agree with this violating Article 25, as there's no one preventing you from professing your religion. You're free to profess, but if you're not a citizen, you'll be evicted. And therefore, I conclude by saying a lot of CA is actually perfectly pro-minority, and nothing of it is going against constitutional law. And a lot of unnecessary discord and opposition against it is unfounded and exaggerated. It perfectly qualifies as a test of constitutional law, and therefore must be treated as such. Thank you. I conclude.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, so I'd like to start my speech by quoting Article 14 of the Constitution that says that the state shall not deny to any person equality before the law or equal protection of the laws within the territory of India. The Citizenship Amendment Act is a blatant violation of this article. Let me explain why. It is true that Article 14 does allow special benefits to certain categories of people. For understanding where the government can do so, the Supreme Court has made a list of reasonable classification. The first one being that there should be a legitimate state aim. The second one should be that the classification should be based on intelligible differentia. And the third one is that the differentia has a rational nexus to the law. There is no legitimate state aim whatsoever to justify this law. Let's assume that the aim was to help people of the persecuted communities from neighboring countries is the aim. This is wrong, as Sri Lanka and Myanmar are not included. Assuming that the aim was to protect persecuted minorities from the pre-independence India, this is also wrong, as Afghanistan is included and Myanmar, which was part of British India, is excluded. Adding to this, the Muslim exclusion does not make sense, as there are sections of the Muslim community, like the Ahmadiyyas from Pakistan and the Hazaras from Afghanistan, that can come under the ambit of the definition of persecuted minorities. The Refugee Convention states that the people can seek refuge or make asylum claims on the basis of well-founded fear of persecution. And based on this, there is no clear rationale as to why religious persecution is given greater value as opposed to other forms of persecution. The fact that Ahmadiyyas are discriminated against on sectarian lines and Tamils are discriminated against on the basis of language as opposed to discrimination based on religious lines cannot hold stead for differential treatment, as it remains that persecution remains nonetheless. Another problem attached to this Amendment Act is that the two criteria that is used for the classification, namely the country of origin and religion, are characteristics that is outside the control of people. And an illegal immigrant is a person who is in India without relevant documentation and is at the risk of being deported by the government of India. The only exception to this rule is the Home Minister SOP, which evaluates each case individually to scrutinize and grant long-term visa. After this amendment, some classes have automatic immunity, and this classification has been made on the basis of religion is very problematic. Next, the dwindling of the population of the minorities that have gotten special treatment in these three countries cannot be a rational argument, as there have been dwindling number of Tamils in Sri Lanka, there have been dwindling numbers of Muslims in Myanmar, and hence there has been an unequal treatment of people placed in equal footing here. Now, one thing that cannot be that should be part of every CAA debate is the link between CIA and NRC, and this is something that cannot be denied. In the NRC exercise that was done in Assam, close to 19 lakh people were excluded, not because they were not citizens, but they did not have the relevant documentation. In many parts of India, many natural disasters are the reason for the loss of documents, and putting into the equation rampant illiteracy is something reasonable. It is something that is not reasonable to ask. CA alone is discriminatory. Coupled with NRC, you put vulnerable communities like the Muslims at risk. Therefore, this needs to be opposed. An interesting part to note about this piece of legislation is that it so clearly discriminates on the basis of religion, but the word religious persecution is not mentioned anywhere in the bill. So if legally you do not have a clause mandating persecution on religious grounds, it hardly makes sense to then differentiate.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, this is very indicative of an inner agenda and vested interests. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. So,
ma'am, just a small concern. While we were debating, I got a message that Judge 2 left the room, so I was a bit concerned about that.
No, don't worry. We were connected from other sources, so don't worry.
Thank you so much.
thank you. So now we will be starting with the next team, that is 3NDC025. I repeat, 3NDC025. Please request to speak so that we can let you in. I request 3NDC025A to join so that we can begin with the
So, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, but neither of you are visible.
I Am I not visible? Okay, okay.
Okay, so before starting, I would like to mention one thing, that all your arguments and statements should be legal and constitutional. They should not be political, otherwise, it will lead to disqualification of your team.
Sure.
Thank you. You may start.
So I will start with a question, that if Constitution has given the right to Parliament to make citizenship laws, which is not at all violative of the spirit of Article 5 to 11, then who are we to question that it is constitutional or unconstitutional? So let me start with good morning, good afternoon to everyone present in this meeting, and especially the requested judges, respected judges. Let me start with why CA was necessary and how this whole thing built up. In 1946 January, 80 to 90% Muslims of West Bengal, Bihar and UP voted for Muslim League and supported a theory of two nation theory, and and the part which completely discarded the Muslim League became the part of Pakistan. In prayer meeting of 26 September, Mahatma Gandhi also said the minorities should be protected. Coming to 2003 Joint Committee of Ministry of Home Affairs, whose chairman was Dr. Pranav Mukherjee, and the members were Kapil Sibal, Ambika Soni, Hansraj Bharadwaj. They suggested that the non-Muslims should be given citizenship of this country, and in clause 7 they specifically mentioned that majority should not be given the citizenship of this country. Whether it's Tarun Gogoi, whether it's Ashok Gehlot, whether it's Manmohan Singh.
Just a minute. No.
You need not take names.
Don't mention the name and don't mention the political things. Don't mention the name of officers. You will be disqualified.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. So coming up to the suggested. So basically, these were the questions. In 1950, there was a Nehru-Liaquat Pact, which completely said that both countries will protect the rights of the minorities. But the undivided Pakistan population, which was in 1970 of non-Muslim was 23%, which downgraded to 1.8% in Pakistan and 10.5% in Bangladesh. But India, it increased from 17% to 26%. So India followed this pact, but Pakistan and other countries didn't. In last years of UPA government, 1,14,000 non-Muslims filed application for citizenship of this country. I may ask each and everyone to find out how many Muslims gave it. So basically, the clear picture is that there was no records how many Muslims filed it. So the clear picture was, for those who is asking the citizenship, you are not ready to give them, and for those who are not asking the citizenship, you are ready to burn the whole country. Now coming to Article 14. If we interpret Article 14 as we read it, then the whole schemes for minorities as well as the special treatment to the minorities will be right away declared unconstitutional. The Article 14 talks about the test of equality. That simply means you cannot treat equal with the unequals. So you cannot treat Ahmadiyyas and Shias with the non-prosecuted minority, because the trigger behind the prosecution of Shias and Ahmadiyyas is completely different from trigger from prosecution of non-Muslims which are present there. One is on secretarial basis, other is on religion basis, and irrespective of their prosecution within the Muslim community, they have a common hatred for non-Muslims, and especially for ideal worshipping community which is Hindus. In the judgment of Kedarnath Bhadoria versus West Bengal, Supreme Court specifically said that Article 14 does not say that all laws should be universally and generally applicable. Government has the right to create certain differentiations accordingly. So basically, I want to say that there was also the question, those who will be excluded through NRC, Hindus will get through CA citizenship through CA. I want to say that CA is not so broad enough to compile those or compensate those who will be excluded from NRC, especially the Hindu community, to will get it as through CA. So I will rest my this. Thank you.
Okay, this is 3NDC025D. I'm talking against the motion. Firstly, I want to say that you cannot have fundamental human rights linking the citizenships with religious differences, because justice is not where one part of the society is secured or the aspiration of that party is secured. Justice is where everyone's goals and everyone's aspirations are being secured and fulfilled by the government of the country, whether they are citizens or not. As ICCAA is an act which violates the fundamental right as well as the secularism of the country and the country's constitution. And here, using the religion for the purpose of discrimination of this kind will not be accepted. However, we cannot deny that the Hindus treated badly in these countries outside India, they deserve sympathy, and this case must be taken into account in consideration for citizenships has to be independent, whereas the CAA or Citizenship Amendment Act violates because it is the amendment of Citizens Act which previously allowed all the peoples to fulfill the criteria for Indian citizenships to get the citizenship status, irrespective of the place of origin or religion. But the CAA is an act which gives citizenships to illegal migrants from Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan in the territory of India, whoever living before December 2014. This clearly shows that it violates the principle of secularism in our country, which prohibits the government to discriminate on the ground of religion. Okay, we should also note that it confers privileges to those migrants who fulfilling the criteria only if they have entered India before December 31, 2014. And it is also important to note that these three countries are famous globally for terrorism, and terrorism has no religion. No terrorism has religion, as well as these currencies are also responsible as interval of times for fake currency transportation. These laws enable, like CAA, enables the country, this type of country, to facilitate this issue in territories of India. It is also important to know the aspect of government of India. But Center says about this. Center says that the minority group have come escaping prosecution in Muslim minorities nation. However, the logic is not consistent. This bill does not protect all religious minorities, or nor does it apply to all neighbors. The Ahmadiyyan Muslim sectors and even Shia Muslim discrimination in Pakistan, Rohingya Muslims and Hindu face prosecution in neighboring Bangladesh and Myanmar, and the Hindus and Christian Tamils in neighboring Sri Lanka. About 20% of the population of Sri Lanka is from India, those Tamil Nadu people who migrated to Sri Lanka. The Indian government responded that the Muslim can seek refuge in Islamic nation, but has not answered other question about the other people's citizenships. They also need to see that this CAB or CAA won't apply to 6th schedule of the constitution, which deal with the
so sorry, the time is over.
No, time is over. Time is over.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I would request you to please leave the room so that next team can come. Thank you. Now we will be moving on to our last team, that is 3NDC052. I repeat, 3NDC052. I request the team to please request to speak.
Am I visible and audible?
Yes, you're visible and audible, but I'm not able to.
He said that he is joining.
Ma'am, I've joined. Is my voice coming?
Yes, your voice is coming, but we cannot.
But my camera is on.
No, you're not visible.
Ma'am, I have opened share your screen, your entire screen. Now I'm equal. Now I'm seeing. Ma'am, am I now visible?
No, you're not visible. We can see your screen.
Ma'am,
Please do
what to
not
do
share
that?
your screen. Just turn on your camera.
Ma'am, now okay?
Yes, you're visible
Okay,
now.
ma'am.
Okay, so before you guys start, I just want to mention one thing, that please make sure that all your arguments are legal and constitutional. They are not political, as it will lead to disqualification of your team. You may start.
Good morning, judges. I am team 052 and I am speaking for the motion. The Citizenship Amendment Act made two major amendments. It amended the definition of illegal immigrants. It stated that 6 communities, Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains, and Parsis from 3 specific nations, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Pakistan, who came before India before December 31, 2014, will not be considered as illegal immigrants, and relaxed the 11-year process of naturalization to 5 years. And I think that this law is based on completely reasonable classification, which has nexus to the object which is to be served. The object is to protect the religiously persecuted minorities from these 3 specific nations, these 3 specific neighboring nations. And I think this law will pass the test of Article 14 of the Indian Constitution, as the equality is among those who are in similar situation. And how can a person who is religiously persecuted be equal to illegal immigrant who are coming for economic reasons, who are coming for political reasons? And it cannot be served to people who are of majority religion in these 3 nations. Moreover, the allegation that it affects violates Article 15 of the Constitution. The Article 15 is completely for the citizens of India and not for those who are to be given the citizenship. And secondly, the allegation why it not includes people from refugees from Myanmar or Sri Lanka is that it would not be a specific particular law, precise law. It would become a policy law. A law does not needs to protect another evil when it is protecting one evil to prove its constitutionality. Moreover, the allegation that it affects the secularism structure of this constitution is that secularism is nowhere defined in the Constitution of India, and the secularism is so big that a mere relaxation law for the persecuted minorities would affect the secularism of this nation. Secondly, lastly, I would conclude that equality is different from equity, and privilege is to be given those who served it.
If India is not a secular country, then that India is not India at all. Great words by our late Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Namaste, I am 3NDC052B. I am speaking against the motion. On 11th of December, the Parliament of India passed the black law, which is called CAA or Citizenship Amendment Act. The law or the bill or the proposal stated that any Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Jain, Buddhist or Christian from the 3 neighboring countries of Bangladesh, Afghanistan and Pakistan can become citizens of India, provided they came before the end of 2014, that is December 2014. The government, in its defense, said that this law was being brought in the country so that the religiously persecuted people from Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Pakistan can be protected. The question now here I want to ask my opponent, or I would like to raise, is why not Rohingyas from Myanmar, who were religiously persecuted by Buddhist majority, or Tamil, who are majorly Hindus, from Sri Lanka, who were prosecuted by Sinhali speaking Buddhist, and for that matter, why not Shia and Ahmadiyas from Pakistan? In 1977, secularism was added by the 42nd Amendment of the Constitution. There were several amendments were added later, which removed this amendment completely. But secularism became the part of basic structure of our Constitution. As earlier mentioned by many of my fellow participants, basic structure of our Constitution was decided into two landmark cases: Olga Tellis and Keshwananda Bharti. These cases developed the basic structure of our Constitution that we know. This Article 14, which clearly states that any law made on the basis of religion gender, caste, or place of birth is not right. Although, as my fellow participants and my worthy opponent has said and pointed out that equals cannot be treated unequally, but here the problem or the question is not of equal or inequality, but the problem is of religion and religiously persecuted people. Me as a citizen have some rights to protest, which were thrashed by police and under command of government. Many people are still under the draconian UAPA and sedition laws. Home Minister, who has given the hint of NRC, although the topic is not for NRC, but Assam has faced the wrath of NRC. It was a horrendous process. 19 lakh people were made stateless within nights. They were under distress, and many died because of heart problems and other problems. Even the Office of UN High Commissioner of Human Rights called it discriminatory and wrong. If you want to help people, don't pretend like helping. Actually go and help everyone. India is a developed country. We already have very few resources. Resources are spread thin. I am a citizen of this country and I have rights over those resources. Although this may sound insensitive, but why should I share my resources with everyone? I do understand that those people are religiously persecuted, but Ahmadiyyas from Pakistan and many other people, they also said that they wanted to stay in Pakistan and other countries. Why should I now share my resources with these people? And the last, I would like to say that many people died because of this law, whether it is because of stress or because of riots caused in Delhi, and India's image got bad because of an biased and an unsecular law. That's it.
Can we have a rebuttal round?
Yes, you can.
You, my dear partner, you mentioned that Ahmadiyyas and other subcastes of Muslims are not included. But I want to ask that if they identify themselves as Muslims, so why should we include them as religiously persecuted minorities of the Islamic states?
Well, firstly, I would like to say Pakistan may call itself Islamic, but it is more of a Sunni country which is dominated by Punjabi Sunnis, to be very precise. Other whether we talk about Pathans or Ahmadis or Shia Muslims in Pakistan, they are prosecuted as bad as any Hindu or a Sikh or a Jain in Pakistan. The point here is not why they were not added. The point here is why only Hindus were added and not everyone from Pakistan who were religiously prosecuted, because the defense given by the government was to help the religiously prosecuted people in the extreme countries of Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan. That's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you, judges. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now the participants of the session of the prelim round can leave the virtual debate room, and we will have a break and we will resume the fourth slot at 2 p.m.
Fine. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anchor, you may also leave the room.